How y'all doing, family? And welcome back to another episode of the Willing and Able Show. So today I have a very, very special guest with us today. He's somebody who I've been wanting a podcast for a minute, and I finally got him. Introduce yourself.
I'm Taron Ragan. I'm originally from Fort Valley, so we came up together. So I'm excited to be on the podcast. It's been a long time coming, but a little bit about myself. I always knew I had an interest in business, and when I was in college, I was taking an accounting course, and that professor told me that accounting was the language of business. So I decided to major in accounting. That led me to a career where I worked for Deloitte in accounting, which is the largest professional services firm in the world. Worked in consulting at Deloitte. I did a mix of CFO strategy consulting and mergers and acquisitions consulting. And that led me to working for Microsoft, where I'm currently a senior finance manager, and I worked on multiple things, including planning for how many people we need to hire to build data centers to power AI and cloud services, planning servers to meet cloud and AI demand. I've done a lot of things in the tech space with Microsoft, and I've also been a CFO and several investor in several startups spanning tech and consumer products. So that's me, and I'm excited to be here.
Man, you did a lot. You did a lot. I was just telling him off the pod, like I'm so proud of him. Like he said, like we grew up together. And for those who don't know, Fort Valley is a very, very small city, man. And a lot of people do not get to see the things that we see. So I'm telling you, like, just for him to be what he at, me to be what I'm at, it's all God. Like it's all God. For those who's thinking about starting a journey in a small town and you don't see nobody doing it, we are two examples. So you can do that. Just keep God first, keep the faith, and keep working hard. So you mentioned that you was in Microsoft and that you was in accounting. How did that start out? Like, tell me the early years of your accounting when you first got into the industry.
Yep. The intro to the accounting industry was at Deloitte. Um, I was working in the audit group, so doing audits for really a bunch of different industries. So my first major client was a real estate investment trust. It was about $1 billion company, and they were going through a major restructuring, which presented its own set of challenges. It was twice as hard as like the traditional audit that you would work on as a first year professional, but that experience was good for me because it allowed me to go through a tough experience, which taught me more than if I had gone through an experience that was, smoother and easier. And that set me up to excel in. I After that work, I ended up moving into the Japanese services group at Deloitte, where I worked on reviews, financial reviews of $300 million Japanese tech companies. Um, so that was my intro to accounting, working on a big restructuring that was very challenging, and then working in an environment where the culture was way different than what I was used to. And so both of those experiences really helped me grow in many ways. That was my intro to accounting.
Okay, okay. I love to hear that. I love to hear that. So, what is a day-to-day base of being a senior financial manager, and how does that impact Microsoft?
Yep. So day to day of being a senior finance manager, no 2 days are the same. When you talk about accounting versus finance, the roles are very different. So accounting is focused on recording and tracking what happened in the past and making sure that the books are as accurate as possible. But when you're in a role like what I'm in now as a senior finance manager, you're focused on planning for the future. So a lot of what you do every day is having conversations with in Microsoft context, product managers, capacity planners, supply chain professionals, so that you can understand what's happening from a business perspective and translate that to numbers so you can forecast where you think, like in my space, the server dollars will land over the next 3 months, 1 year, all the way up to 3 year forecast. So I would say, just summarize, on a day-to-day basis, my job is really working across different job functions. So, like I mentioned, product managers, sometimes software engineers, supply chain, et cetera, to understand what's actually happening in our business. So then I can put a dollar value on that and make sure we're not, overspending, but we're also meeting the strategic goals of the company.
Man, look, I understand your struggle. I understand when you said no day is the same. Man, I remember when I was in college, man, I had to take accounting one, two, and three. For y'all who are not business majors, accounting is no joke. So the things that he is doing, like he has a serious, important job, people, and just give him his flowers right now, because boy, my professor was trying to get me to be an accountant, brother. And I seen all the stuff I had to do. I mean, I passed with A's in every single one, but it just was like, bro, no, not the rest of my life. But I commend you for doing that, man. So somebody will say, well, what kind of skills and what mindset do you need to have to get into the role that you're currently in?
Yeah, I would say there's a mix of hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills wise, you have to be able to understand business strategy. So understanding what moves a business, from a revenue perspective, what are the costs that justify that revenue, and really being able to understand that is a skill in itself. I would say financial modeling. So taking courses to understand how do you build a financial model. Most of it will be income statement, or is also called a profit and loss statement focused. So really honing your skills in building financial models is a big one, because you're going to have to build these models to drive conversations that you'll have with business partners. The financial models are what inform the business's plans and what we can or can't do, because every company is managing a set of metrics. So a couple of metrics that are like most important would be gross margin, which is revenue minus the cost that you have to spend to make whatever product you're selling. And so whatever's left, that's the gross margin. That's one of the key metrics that, a company is tracking. And so if you build a model and historically you got a 60% gross margin, um, and you go out and make a decision that, or you're thinking about making a decision that might drop your gross margin to 50%, then the model helps you see that decision before you actually make it official, and you can't go back. So that's why where financial modeling is important. It helps you model out decisions that you're going to make around the business. It's a highly valuable skill. Um, and then in terms of whatever business you work for, so if it's in tech, at Microsoft or some other company, you really want to understand that business that you're working in, because you have to understand it in order to model out a financial statement, build a financial model that can actually help drive decision making. So those are the three hard skills that, I would say. On the soft skill side, it's funny because a lot of what they teach us in grade school, like working in teams, like it still applies today. I remember a moment a couple of years ago where I got the chance to work with some of the executives in the company directly, and they, one of them had their screen shared. One of them was working on one slide, another one was working on another slide, another one was like in the background, like what information do you need to put on that slide? And so it was just like a big group project. So Like that's one of the basic things that we get taught all through school, like being a good teammate and knowing how to work in teams. That's one of the soft skills. Being able to influence others. So a lot of times there might not be a clear answer for what decision needs to be made, and you might have an opinion or perspective that you feel is the right approach to take, but in order to get the outcome that you want, you have to influence a set of stakeholders towards that goal, and so you have to have the ability to influence others. Presentation skills never go away. The more you climb, the more you're presenting ideas to others versus in the earlier days, you will be doing some of the hard skills stuff like building the financial models and doing a lot of the hands-on work. But the more you grow, is going to be about influencing and motivating others to achieve the goals that you have set out. So being able to present well is a soft skill that I would add. Relationship building is key. Um, Relationship building can take you further than really any of the skills that I've said. Relationship building can open doors that you never expected to open. Some of the jobs that I have had were opened solely through building relationships with people. So I can't sell relationship building enough. But those are some hard skills and soft skills that I would start with.
That's good. That's good, man. That's definitely good. And I love how you put in there at the end relationships, man. You that is like you said, that's the biggest thing you can have, man. It's so many people in the position that they are in now, but not based off their degree, not based off how much money they made. It's about who you know, and keep God first, but who you know can put you into doors. I'm telling you, people will look at you and like, how did you even get in this room? It's because you was working hard, you put God first, and you know people, you network. Networking is so, so important. So speaking of networking, how did you actually started to learn how important networking was?
Yeah, I started learning how important it was. Honestly, not intentionally. So when I was in college, I had some adversity of my own. Like I had a semester where I was homeless. The following semester, I was living in an extended stay hotel. I was working full time as a forklift operator, and I moved all of my classes to nighttime. So I would get off of work and go straight to class until like nine something at night. And at the time, you could probably guess it was hard to focus on school because I was, trying to figure out my life situation, and my GPA dropped significantly. But after that semester where I was living in the extended stay hotel, kind of found my footing, I had saved up some money, I was able to get student housing again. But like I said, my GPA had dropped significantly, and the accounting internships typically have a GPA cutoff. So if your GPA is below a certain number, just automatic rejection. So I got rejected from a bunch of companies just based on my GPA, and I got to a point where it was actually came from my wife. So my wife had gotten an internship, and they had a speaker that came to speak to them one day. I think this was God sending a message from him through her to me. And what he told their intern class was, if you ever get rejected, don't ever just take the rejection and walk away. If it's over email specifically, you respond to that email and you say, what could I have done better to set myself up to actually earn the opportunity next time? And the next day, I actually got rejected from an opportunity where I could have possibly gotten an internship. And I took that advice, I responded to the email, and I asked that question. Well, 30 minutes later, I got a phone call from the recruiter, and she said, we've never had someone respond to a rejection email asking for how can they be better? And so she just wanted to talk to me, and we talked for probably an hour, and I shared my story, and after I shared my story, she said, never say never. And long story short, that led to an internship, my first internship opportunity. And so I said not necessarily intentionally in the beginning, and you can see in that story it really wasn't intentional. It was a message that came to me through my wife, but from that moment, I learned that sharing your story in a transparent way and being relatable really can unlock the relationship and open doors for you. And from that point, I did become intentional about building relationships through all of the rest of the internships and professional opportunities that I had. So that was really the moment that changed how I approached relationship building.
I love that testimony, man. I love that testimony. Definitely, definitely. One of the realest testimonies I ever heard. You fought adversity. You never gave up. You got rejected. You still didn't give up. But it's one key thing that you said. You said God sent somebody to tell you what to do, and you listened and did what God told you to do. So many people hear from God and they be like, "Well, I'm not finna do that," or they just plainly forget about it. And they answer was right there. They just dropped it. And now they had to take a whole nother extended course to get to where they were supposed to be originally. So I'm glad that you listened on the first time. So I know that you mentioned previously when we was talking off camera that you was part of a team for a startup called the Impact Hub. Can you give us a little bit about that and what it is?
Yep, yep. So Impact Hub is a tech startup that I've been leading finance for and am an investor in. So essentially what Impact Hub is it's a tech platform that is creating opportunity for communities that might not have access to certain opportunities. So we help other entrepreneurs go through the procurement process to do business with big Fortune 500 companies. Um, we also have, and this is the main focus of Impact Hub. So it's an energy focused um, tech platform. So we facilitate the process for training the workforce to, the technical term is weatherize homes, which just means, caulking around windows, replacing bad AC, making homes more energy efficient. So our platform facilitates the process to make homes more energy efficient, and it has an impact on the energy firm. Of course, they save money. It has an impact on homeowners. They save money because their energy bills are lower. It has an impact on the community because it's creating jobs for contractors and funneling, business to those contractors. So Impact Hub is really energy focused tech startup at the core. And it's been a great experience filled with a lot of learning about what it takes to succeed in startups, and also had some experience with a few other startups across industries. Um, One of those is a consumer products company. So this company sells educational toys. Um, and really, it's that company's focus is to give children an opportunity to, entertain themselves with toys and educate themselves on STEM topics at the same time. So, communities that typically lack access to high quality education in those subjects in particular, get that extra reinforcement at home when, they're just playing with toys. So, also been fortunate to be the CFO of that startup and getting to see it go through some tough moments, some good wins, and I think both of these companies are poised to achieve a lot of success and make a big impact at the same time.
I'm definitely ready to see where that goes in the future. Because with all the technology and all the advanced AI, how AI just blew up in a
Yep.
matter of years. So I'm glad that you're giving it to the kids that grew up like me and you in a rural area where technology or resources was just not prominent at all. I remember being in school, and you know how our textbooks used to look like terrible,
Yep.
man. Like, computers were messed up. So I'm glad that you actually in the front line of that, because you can give the things that you experienced in life and like, hey, no, this is what they gonna actually look like if you go to a rural community that does not have the resources. So you can put some say so, man. I feel like God put you there for a reason, my brother. Definitely put you there for a reason. So with that being said, what are some lessons that you learned in your life that you apply to the corporate world?
Yeah, I would say a big one is if I can overcome, not having a place to stay and living in a hotel and, frankly, losing family members to different health conditions. And, if I can get through those experiences, I can overcome any challenge or project or, work assignment that gets thrown my way. Because I put it into perspective like, okay, you just asked me to build an Excel financial model to do X, Y, and Z. And it might sound difficult or challenging or sometimes impossible, but when I think back on like real life experiences that I went through, like I said, if I can get through not having a place to stay while still being in college, like I can build a financial model. So I think that moment in my life really taught me how to not be rattled by what looks like adversity. Because a lot of times we'll make something that is not really adversity look like adversity in our head, and we worry about it and stress about it more than we should, when in most cases, the way around or through a problem is just action. The more action you take, the less stress and anxiety and worry you'll have, because God gave us ears, eyes, mouth, but He also gave us hands, and the hands are for you to go out and do and get things done. And so if you just constantly listen and absorb and you don't use your hands to put out and do work, it's all going to just sit within you, all the worry, all the stress, but you have to work and put your hands to work to remove some of those feelings from your body. So that was one of the biggest lessons that life has taught me, and how I carry it with me professionally.
That's real. One thing you said is you got to put the work in. The
Hmm.
Bible says faith without works is dead. The Bible also says you're gonna face trials and tribulations, man. You're gonna face hardship. You're gonna face this. And this is a testimony that I gave on the podcast before, but it was at a point of time where I didn't even want to do the podcast no more. Or because I was like, nobody is coming onto the episodes. I don't know what to say. I'm repeating topics that I already did videos on. And then I just started like one day, like 2, 3 months ago, I just started texting random people that I find interesting. And that's something that Jeremy, our mutual friend, told us,
Yep.
like, man, you just gotta just text them. And I was like, bro, these people are huge. He was like, man, look, text them. So I did it, and I just got people replying, replying, replying. To this day, I'm getting people to reply. But it's like Taron said, you have to put in that work. Work is not, it's not, nothing gonna happen unless you do something. Okay,
Hmm.
you gotta do it. So I know when everybody heard he was a finance person and he was a CFO, everybody was saying, well, I want to learn about money. I want to learn how I can do better financially. So we got y'all questions right here. So the first question I have for y'all is, let's say somebody is starting off, no credit, they don't even know nothing about finance. What would be your go-to suggestion for them?
I would say live below your means if you have a source of income. Um, if you don't have a source of income, obviously you got to figure out how you're going to make money. And so let me go back to the making money piece. So a lot of times our passions and what we really care about, they might not pay us at first. They may not ever pay us. But we all, in addition to our passion, we all have a set of skills that God put within us. And that may be what you have to lean on to produce income. And, in a perfect world, there'll be some overlap between the skills that God gave you and the passion that He gave you. But if not, you have to identify what skills did God give me that I can deliver in the marketplace to generate an income. And like I said, you might not be passionate about it, but this might be something that you can be really, really good at to produce the income to then enable yourself to invest in what you're passionate about, to be financially free and focus fully on, whatever it is you're passionate about. So the skills that you have and your passion may not always overlap. Ideally, it will, but if it doesn't, don't write off skills that you have that you can be great at to generate that income. So I say that that's the first thing is figuring out what you're good at, hoping that it overlaps with your passion. But if not, really understanding that God gave you this skill for a specific reason and purpose, and leaning into that to generate an income. Secondly, is living below your means. And especially when you come into new money, it can be difficult to live below your means because you're not used to a lot of the things that you can access now. Um, but you have to get to a point where you realize that like material things are just that. You don't need to continue to acquire material things to be happy and to live, a fulfilling life. A lot of times, freedom is the biggest thing that will make people happy. Would you rather have a $2 million house where your mortgage is $15,000 a month, or would you rather have $2 million with $100,000 house, where in the scenario where you got a $2 million house and a big mortgage, you're pretty much forced to work even if you don't want to. But on the flip side, if you got the $2 million with, relatively inexpensive house, you got freedom to choose to do what you want to do with your time. And everybody has a different set of values and cares about different things. Like some people do care about notoriety and being a big name and being famous, and there's nothing wrong with those things. But financially speaking, living below your means will afford you to have more options as you move through your life. So living below your means, and then I'll say number three is, if you're living below your means, you should have extra money left over to invest. So I would encourage opening a brokerage account, and this is also dependent on the person. So you might be a person who likes to invest in stock, and this is not investment advice. Like I said, it depends on the person, but you might invest in stocks. So you might have a brokerage account where you buy stocks in companies that you support on a day-to-day basis. Like if you actually go to these companies and you spend your money, why not buy ownership in those companies? You might open a Roth IRA account where you can still invest in stocks and index funds. And by the time you reach the retirement age, you can pull from that money tax free, including the gains. That might be an avenue that a person would take that I would encourage. Um, so the third one is really, after you generate some income, you live below your means, you have some excess, making sure that you're putting away as much as you can while still sustaining the lifestyle that makes you happy. I recommend at least 10% of what you make to be put into an account, an investment account. And make sure if you open a brokerage account that you actually pick an investment and invest the money, because just by depositing the money into the account doesn't mean that it's invested. You have to actually deposit the money and then select which investments you want, and then hit the buy button for the transaction to go through for it to actually be invested. And once you start seeing returns on your investment every day, every month, every year, then you can kind of start seeing, why investing is important, and invest as early as possible, because compound interest is where wealth is really made. The earlier you invest, the more you invest, the more it's going to grow in the later years. So just imagine two people started investing at different times, but this year, one of them has 300,000 in an account, and one of them has 3 million in an account, but they both earned 10% in that year. The person with 300,000, they would have made $30,000 in that year, but the person with 3 million in their account would have made $300,000 in that year. Technically, they can live off of the earnings from, what their money is making for them. And so that's what it means when they say let your money work for you, don't work, work for your money. Um, but you can see the big difference between two different people who they both got the same market return, but the amount of the return is drastically different because the person with the $3 million account probably invested more and they invested sooner. So those are some practical things that people can do.
Man, I just learned a lot of stuff. So I know if I learned some stuff, I know y'all learned some stuff. Definitely take that brother advice and do what he's telling you to do. This man is a professional with the money, you hear me? So definitely take his advice. So I have a couple more questions for you today. What habits or routines have you used to help you to be to where you want to be at in life right now?
Yeah, I would say fitness is one. Focusing on my health, keeping a regular fitness routine, because if you don't invest in yourself, you can't invest in anything else. So that's a big one. I would say doing a lot of reading, and just out of curiosity, and not even sitting down and like reading whole books. Like I have a lot of books and I've read a lot of books, but like if you're on your phone, it's just as easy to read an article about investing or a certain company or a certain market as it is to watch a video, watch a TikTok video. So a lot of times I'm drawn to like articles about different topics that I'm interested in at the time. And a lot of times it's when I'm like working towards something specific. It may be working in a different industry, or, trying to get a job doing a different type of work. I find myself naturally gravitating towards reading different websites and articles and publications about like those things. And so that habit is like constantly helping me learn. So, like I said, curiosity and always being on a journey of learning, being a lifelong learner. So fitness, learning, um, giving back. Giving back is probably the biggest one that continues to help me grow and, receive blessings. Because for me, my biggest goal in life is to fulfill the assignment that God has placed me on, to do on this earth. And in everything that I do, I always pray for God to order my steps and guide me, my mind, my heart in the way that, He sees fit and according to His will and purpose. And in doing that, for some reason, I always seem to stay on track. Always seem to avoid, bad circumstances, just continuing to seek God first in everything that I do. It continues to guide me and it helps me grow quickly because I'm only focused on what God wants me and where He wants me to do, where He wants me to be. So I would say those are three big ones. And really, if I can emphasize one, it would be the last one, to just seek God in your life and, ask God to order your steps and try to align all of your actions with His will and, His purpose for your life. And, you know, like you said earlier in the podcast, a lot of times God will communicate with us and send signs, and we just for some reason aren't paying attention, and it's because we're not seeking God, we're not seeking what God has placed here for us, and we're trying to do things our way, and you'll find that a lot of times if you seek God's will, you'll receive things that are way better than what you were trying to do for yourself. Um, so that's been a common experience, in my life. And like I said, if I can emphasize any of those three things, it would be to just seek God's will and purpose for your life.
That's real. That's real. Cause I remember I'm gonna take it back a little bit for a second. You was talking about investing in your health. A lot of people, especially us men, we do not invest in health. And that is something that I've been trying to get on myself. Cause man, look here, you know how we grew up. We eat fat back, cornbread, collard greens, fried chicken. So man, like I just been really looking at like, okay, what type of diet do I need? I need to go back to the gym. And I'm telling you, man, I was just talking to somebody the other day. I was like, bro, I'm getting back in the gym. I'm gonna start eat healthy because I started learning how important your health can can be like the foundation for a lot of stuff to happen. Like you trying to get this house, you trying to get this family, you trying to get this, but your health messed up. You can't do nothing. You're not gonna be able to move. And like he said also earlier, buying stuff you don't need to buy, like that was me. I grew up poor. So when I first
Yep.
started working for real, I was just like, I'm finna get all this stuff that I wish I could have got when I was younger. You know, man, but last year it hit me. I was like, why am I spending money on all this stuff when I can just go on Amazon and find a cheaper version of it and still wear it? And the thing that really blew my mind was I had bought some shoes, and I ain't gonna say the brand, but I bought some shoes. And I ended up buying some shoes that looked kind of like them, and they was investment shoes. They was like not investment shoes. They was dress shoes. I got them off of Amazon. This was 2 years ago. I still have them shoes. I don't have the other shoes no more. They was wear and tear, and it's crazy because those shoes that I wore. I mean, I was in a bank and I was wearing a suit, and that was another investment. And I had two people come up to me on two separate occasions. They was like, "Hey, I'm you the manager. You own this bank. I'm looking for help." I'm looking like, bro, I'm just here to cash this check. Like, and it's just like you have to invest in yourself. You never know where it's going to go. But my last question for you today is, well, second to last is, what is your willing and able moment? What I mean by that is, what moment in your life pivoted you to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I would say it was when I lost my dad to gun violence. I was in seventh grade, and it was a moment I won't ever forget. Uh, a few nights before he passed, we were outside together, and he made me promise that I would be better than he was in life. And I took that promise seriously, even after he was gone. And I took that promise to heart because even though he was no longer here, I felt like it wouldn't have been right if I didn't keep the word that I had given to him while he was here. And so that promise carried me for years, years, just keeping my promise that, I would be better than, he was and some of the choices that he had made, in his life. And that was the moment for me. And, coming from Fort Valley, things could have went they could have went left or they could have went right at that moment. It could have been, it would have been very easy if I wanted to go down the wrong path, especially after, losing my father to gun violence. I could have went down the wrong path very easily. And so again, I thank God for ordering my steps and guiding me and giving me a sound mind and heart in that moment to make the right choice and to continue to let that moment and that promise motivate me and fuel me to overcome all the obstacles that came my way and to build a life that is purposeful and is a testimony to empower and motivate and inspire others.
Man. Look, if you ain't hear nothing else this man said in this podcast, you should listen to that. He had a choice right then and there to go the bad route or the good route. Man, he just said, coming from where we from, he's not lying. It's easy to go the bad route. We seen people we grew up with do it, man. So that for anybody out here that's like, oh, my family did this, my daddy did this, my mama did this, that don't mean you have to do it. Like I tell my students all the time, I'm the first person in my family that's a male that got a college degree. So it's like, if I can do it, why can't you do it? Like, neither one of my parents got degrees. That don't mean I couldn't get my degree. Like, you have to keep working and have to keep striving for what you have and the goals that you have. But my last question for you today, Mr. Taron, is after it's all said and done, when the Lord bring you home to him, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, I think mine is simple. I really just want to have helped as many people as I can, and that help will be in various forms. It'll be putting people in positions financially that will change their lives. It will be having poured a word into them that spark something that helped them overcome, a certain obstacle. It'll be having given access to opportunities that people felt were impossible for them, to change minds about what's possible for a person. Because as you know, a lot of people from places like where we're from, they already have these made up assumptions in their mind about what's possible for them. And I want to help change a lot of people's minds and like show them that you are capable of more than what you give yourself credit for. And just to also show that, because a lot of times in our communities, we think that sports or entertainment are the only way to be very successful. And, I want to be an example for our community that business is really, in my opinion, the best path to be very successful. So I would say it's really those things and the ways I want to make an impact before I'm gone.
Well, Mr. Run, I just want to say thank you again for coming on to the Willing and Able show. I hope you enjoyed being a guest. Definitely got to get you back on here again. But to my family on YouTube, Spotify, y'all already know what time it is. Y'all have a blessed, a positive, and a productive day. Peace, family. And don't forget, keep God first.